If you guessed that I was mostly lounging on the balcony and indulging in a few spa treatments on my recent Royal Caribbean cruise, I would say you are not wrong. But you may be surprised to hear that I did exert some energy both on and off the ship as I enjoyed several island excursions in the Eastern Caribbean. First up was the beautiful island of St. Kitts, a colorful oasis with the friendliest of people. I actually had two separate excursions booked through the cruise line, a rainforest hike and a bus tour. The rainforest hike kicked off at the Wingfield estate adjacent to Caribelle Batik. Batik is a type of dye-resistant wax art applied to fabrics, and we were able to observe the process firsthand here. The hike itself took us through an old rum distillery discovered as recently as 2013. And then we were off on our trek through the rainforest, where we learned all about the native plant and wildlife in the area.
Almonds, not almonds. You have the almonds, we have the almonds.
While our guide was amazing, it seemed that most people who signed up for the tour didn't quite get the memo that this was going to be a moderately strenuous adventure through the rainforest. I found myself surrounded by non-hikers, which honestly made it a bit aggravating since the pace was set by the slowest person. If you're a hiker, I'd recommend figuring out your own hike on the island rather than booking an excursion through the cruise. The second half of the day was enjoyed on a bus ride around town. Not too much to report here, but we had a number of pull-offs with great views. This was my first time visiting St. Kitts, and for such a short time, it really had me thinking about planning a future trip back to the island to learn more about its history and discover all the sights it has to offer. While our next stop was technically the island of St. Thomas, I used this opportunity to visit St. John instead, which was a bit of an ordeal to catch a bus, to the ferry, to another bus. I didn't have an excursion book, so I was just kind of winging it, but ultimately I had my sights set on visiting Virgin Islands National Park. With beautiful bays dotting the coastline, I set out for Maho, where I was promised to see a sea turtle or two. St. John was beautiful, but I'm not sure it was worth the hasty effort from St. Thomas when you're expected to be back at the ship by a certain time. Our cruise actually arrived in port very early due to a medical emergency, so we had that extra time and we were able to make the most of it, which I'm so grateful for. Last up is CocoCay, or Cay. I never know which is the correct pronunciation. This is one of Royal Caribbean's private islands, and while there is a ton to do, I felt the chill island section was calling to me and spent most of my time there snorkeling. There were some sunken cannons and a ship to explore and supposedly a sunken airplane, which I never found. But all in all, it was a fun time swimming with some stingrays and other colorful fish. This island certainly has something to suit everyone's needs, and I can't wait to explore more of it on a future cruise. Have you visited before? I'm curious to know what you enjoyed the most. As always, thanks so much for watching.